Let's get started for Emily Sonnett here. Let's go with Melina Gaspar. Go ahead, Melina.
Hi, Emily. I'm Melina from Football Ace. I wanted to ask a little bit about how you had to adapt in Göteborg with a three-back line formation, something we almost don't see in the NWSL, and also we don't see in the U.S. women's national team. So, was it difficult for you to adapt to such formation, and how did that help you to improve your game? Thank you.
Yeah, I think playing a back three, I think we kind of dabbled with that a little bit a few years ago with the national team, so I had a little bit of experience. I think a lot of the teams I've played with still build out of a back three, whether that's a six that comes down. But I think that was a great spot for me to get. I think I got around 10 games with Gothenburg. So having a little bit of experience with it, a little bit in college, a little bit with the national team, I thought it was a good fit. And I think that's one of the reasons why I went over there to kind of get that experience with playing in the back three.
Thank you.
Let's go to Ann Peterson. Go ahead, Ann.
Hey, Emily. Thank you for doing this. I was wondering why you decided to go overseas to play last season, and have you been able to work out with the spirit and meet your new teammates?
Yeah, first and foremost, chose to go overseas. Felt like it was a great opportunity to have almost nine. I think I was gonna get 9 to maybe 12 games. Thought that was going to be really big for my not only my development, my career. Not only gonna didn't have the chance to go to the Challenge Cup, and then would have only had 4 games with Orlando. So I thought that was something I chose. Let's get over there. Let's get some games for the calendar year. Yes, I've been up to DC. Spent after my quarantine period, spent about 5 days with the team. Great to show face. Great to get to know the girls and get up with the new team.
Thank you.
And she picked up a championship. Important to note. Let's go to Rachel Krieger. Your hand is up. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks to Jeff for telling me where where it's at. Hi, Emily. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe. My question for you is: Argentina was a little bit of a last minute addition here to the tournament. So just kind of your thoughts on playing them. It's a team that you guys don't often play too much, and then. Just a little note, I guess. I mean, it's kind of cool to have a South American rivalry in the She Believes Cup, as Brazil and Argentina are both in.
Yeah, like you said, like they are different. I think that's what's great about this team. We love playing different opponents. So having them in, I think they're going to bring, a great match. That's what we kind of want to have with the She Believes. It is interesting with the Brazil and Argentina. It's going to be a great game, I think, having that South American rivalry. But I think this team likes playing new teams, new styles, seeing basically different players, different teams. So if anything, I think it's going to be a great She Believes in having them here.
Thank you.
Let's go to Jeff Kassouf. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hi, Emily. Just wondering about you've had a couple games this year so far, same venue, same market. Between training camp and I guess specifically those games too, with the different protocols in place, and I imagine game day maybe looks a little bit different than it did a year ago. Does it feel any different for you in terms of how you prepared or kind of went about your game day routine even, or do you think even despite kind of all these differences, you were able to sort of operate in a maybe quasi normal way for prepping for the game?
Honestly, it does feel like kind of like the new normal. I don't see a really big difference other than having the social distance and the mask. But I think it's been almost a year, over a year, so it kind of does feel a little normal. I would say it is unique, kind of coming back to the same market and going to have 3 games in the same exact stadium. If anything, that's just being familiar with where we're playing, and I think that's great. But yeah, in terms of anything being kind of different, I think it's just now becoming the new normal.
Thanks, Emily.
Let's go to Alex Ozzie. Go ahead, Alex.
Hey, Emily. I'm with NBC Sports and on her turf. Curious, in some of the recent press conferences with other teammates of yours, there's been talk about some of the conversations about racial justice, and I think it was Becky saying, one of the first times the team even sat down to talk about race was this past fall. And I'm curious if you could tell us a little bit about your own experience with those conversations and if there's anything that you've learned and taken with you.
Yeah, so I think the team had been together. So the first kind of conversations as a team, like face to face, would have been that Netherlands camp. And if anything, I think everyone's kind of like, we are super thankful that this is giving us an opportunity to have these authentic conversations. Not just looking on social media, but actually learning, gathering information of what our Black and brown teammates have to say. And I think that's great that we get to have like not only this personal relationship and we get to work with these players and we get to work with everyone, but we get to actually have the hard and good conversations. And I think something that I don't know if I learned, but in terms of growing is the continuing listening and hearing and understanding what they want from me. And I think if I can continue to listen going forward is going to be a huge thing.
Thanks, Al. Let's go to Sarah Walsh.
Hey, Emily, this is Sarah Walsh with Fox Sports. We're going to be covering your game next Sunday. I'm just curious, from the last time we did your game a couple of weeks ago, and you guys had all come into camp, and everyone was so excited to be back together. I'm just curious what strides you guys feel like you've made from then to sort of this intensity stepping up for this tournament.
I mean, in terms of just building from last camp into this camp, I just think the way the staff and the way they've really projected what they want from us and the mentality and how this overall grit that the team has. I think we have a camp and we build on that. We have 2 weeks to kind of get physically ready, maybe recharge, go in with our NWSL teams, carry on from there, and then come into camp. In terms of excitement, we're always excited to come into camp, but I think everyone's genuinely ready to build into the next 3 games.
Thanks, Sarah. Steph Young, go ahead again.
Oh, no, sorry, Aaron. I did not have my hand raised for this one. All
right, so no more Taylor Swift questions for...
If she wants to, sure. Like, her hottest Taylor Swift take, good or bad.
I don't have much on Taylor Swift.
Sorry, all right. In that case, let's go to Carlos Eustace. Go ahead, Carlos.
I am. So my 2 questions are, first, how are the new players shaping up the team? I mean, you have very exciting players like Katarina Macario that come in that bring a lot of potential and new talent and into a group that is very well knitted. So how does it improve you? How you've seen that? And second, having Argentina in the tournament, usually the She Believes Cup was a gathering of the elite teams of women's soccer. In this case, Argentina might be elite in men, but not in women, and it's very important for their growth to be in this tournament. How do you see that?
So for the first question, I think having these new players in camp and getting integrated into camp, I think first and foremost, they've really gotten on board with, and you have to have this before we even enter into our environment, is the mentality of how we train every single day and not really having an off day, not physically off day, but you always need to be on, whether that's meetings, whether that's, I don't even know, nutrition, like everything's, how you get those marginal gains. So I think they've really adopted, and this is before they even coming in here, so that's why they're here. And they do add quality, which is great. I love playing with new players, getting to know new people. And the second question about, can you just repeat that with the Argentina?
Yeah, you're bringing Argentina into the She Believes Cup, which, when you think about it, the She Believes Cup is usually the best of the best. And in this case, Argentina in men's, it's at that level, but on women, they're growing. Their investment is coming little by little. So why is it important for them to play other big teams in the women's game?
When I always think about teams like this, I think, maybe historically they haven't maybe done it as well as they wanted done. But they do have savvy players, and I think that's what we don't see a lot. We might play a very good structural team. But if you get caught in 1v1 individual battles and you have someone who can like savvily get by you in these 1v1 duels, that's something that we're going to see, I think, from Argentina. And I think it's a great opportunity for them. I think it's a great opportunity for the whole entire She Believes to see who can play in this tournament. And again, haven't played them. I don't think I've ever played them. But I think it's a great addition, having a different mix-up of teams.
Thanks, Carlos. We got one more for Emily. I think we're going back to DC for Jason Anderson. Go ahead, Jason.
Hi, Emily. My question, actually, I'm glad Aaron said that, kind of pertains to the back and forth. Sitting here thinking about your timeline the past few months, you were in Sweden, you come to DC, you go to January camp, you come back to DC for a week for spirit training, and now you're in camp again. How do you keep things sorted out? It seems like a whirlwind to me.
Yeah, I mean, when someone asks me about this, I really only think about recovery. There is a bunch of travel, and I think it's not only recovery, but I think it's sticking to protocol. And I think a lot of people have been working behind the scenes in terms of protocol, not only with DC, but obviously with the US team, putting on camps and then our travel and our quarantine periods. Because if you're not doing that, if you're not available, then you actually can't play. So I think in terms of managing, the two teams, I think that's pretty seamless. I've done that. A lot of these players have done that for years. It is a big chunk of time that I've been in camp and only a little bit with DC. And I think in terms of managing that, protocols and recovery is kind of really all I can do.